Only 25% read halfway. Do you know who knows that? The Times and other dirty people in the media. That's why buried down in the piece where they know you won't read, but they can cover their hiney, Israel is not concerned. Wah, wah.
Heartbreaking. The worst person you know just made a great point. Chris Cuomo shreds the New York Times for their BS on Trump's Iran strikes. He does first come at Trump's cabinet, and we'll watch that. Let's get into it.
And by the way, this mess is not on Trump. It's on the conspiracists that he picked to be around him, who trafficked in Epstein nonsense to pump up podcasts. Receipts, you say? That's easy.
Release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list?
Before we let Cuomo have his spiel, I would just like to say whether or not what these current Trump cabinet members said when they were not in Trump's cabinet is true. If you believe them, if you think what they were saying before is true or what they're saying now is true, they are directly contradicting themselves, and people are right to be upset. People are right to say, hey, you pushed this on us. You were the ones that were firing us up and saying, we need to see the list. And now all of a sudden everyone's going, well, there is no list. We don't have a list. The video, everybody watching this video, I know, feels very similarly. I don't really know anybody who is not upset about the situation. So let's hear what Cuomo has to say.
See? I said it was on her desk. I asked the AG to come on all the time. She has an open invitation. What did she mean when she said that? Because if it was on her desk, how does it not exist? Now,
I would just like to say the Daily Caller has some reporting out right now by Reagan Reese that Pam Bondi was saying she had a list of documents that were not necessarily a client list. She hadn't looked at them yet, so she didn't know what they were. That's what she said. That's what she told the Daily Caller. Check out her reporting for more. Anyway.
Those little FBI bros said that this was all about the deep state and the elite, and you saw Cash sitting with that kook, right? See, but now that he's got to be accountable, because he's not part of the clown show, right? In digital media where there's no accountability and it's all just about being extreme and provocative and having hot takes. Now that he's got to own his BS, he and Bongino say what? Oh, no, it's nothing there. It was a suicide. Yeah, it was a suicide. This is a classic case of getting hoisted on your own petard. Look it up, P-E-T-A-R-D. It's a French expression. It means blown up by the bomb you made.
Cash Patel and Dan Bongino have indeed been hoisted by their own petard. They are indeed petarded.
This is what you get for playing the extremism game. Now you have fringe fanatics, and they are not satisfied with anything less than extreme perception.
I reject the notion that calling for lists of potential pedophiles to be released to the public is playing the extreme game, is extremism. It's not. Jeffrey Epstein is a convicted sex trafficker. He was trafficking those children to somebody, and the public has a right to know. That's not extremism, Cuomo. Let's go on.
And the same extreme opposition is why Trump's strikes in Iran were immediately called ineffective. We didn't know. Why were so many in such a rush to say they had failed? It's the Trump sucks movement. It's its own extreme contagion on the left.
Totally.
And in some media outlets. It requires everything he does to be seen as a failure because he is the devil. Trump didn't help his cause by saying the regime's nuclear program was completely obliterated. He didn't know that either. But still, this false perception, and I don't believe Trump is the standard, okay? I don't report to you and argue to you and relate to you the way I believe he does. That's
He doesn't do that because he doesn't work at CNN anymore. Of course, when he did work at CNN, all his coverage was reflexively anti-Trump, as is every left-wing media outlet in the world. And that's a good point he's making now. I wish he would have made those points when he was on CNN and his viewership was 500% larger than it is now. But let's give him credit for accurately pointing out that really the entire left-wing media ecosystem has shaped themselves, has now defined themselves as reflexively anti-Trump, cannot give him points on his wins and double down, triple down, inflate what they view as his losses. Many times are not even losses at all, but even in the places that a reasonable person may say, yeah, that wasn't so great, Trump, you shouldn't have done that. CNN will say, oh, that was Hitler. That was a Hitler-esque move. And they lose all credibility for it in the eyes of normal people everywhere, the 75% of the country that's not far left or far right. And they do a disservice to the wider media ecosystem, normal people trying to get legitimate information every day, muddying the water with their nonsense. Anyway, let's keep going.
He does him, I do me, okay? But this false perception is that they've been ineffective. That is happening still today. There's a new bombshell report out in the Times today, and look at the headline. Some of Iran's enriched uranium survived attacks, Israeli official says. Now, that's a we're screwed headline, right? That's a, they can make a bomb still, right? Right? They know that. They know you're going to take it like that. The perception is Trump failed and the regime can make a bomb. What's the reality? Deep down in the piece, deep down, you had to read this one. How many people do you think click on a piece this day?
1%
otherwise, they
of
just
people that see the headline.
Look at the headline. 6 out of 10. Guess how many will read just halfway? 1 in 4 of us. Only 25% read halfway.
Of the 60%
you know who knows that?
Who click.
The Times and other dirty people in the media. That's why buried down in the piece where they know you won't read, but they can cover their hiney. The New York Times writes that the equipment needed to enrich the uranium to make a nuke had been damaged or destroyed, probably beyond repair. A little different than the headline, huh?
Way different.
And they quote an Israeli official in the headline, right? Well, I guess it wasn't the same one, because Israel is not concerned. Because any attempts by Iran to recover the uranium would be detected and there would be time to attack the facilities again. Wah, wah. Talk about perverting perception to distort reality.
Totally. They perverted perception. They're perverts. The New York Times are perverts. You heard it from Chris Cuomo first.
This is also why you're hearing so little about the ICE officers being attacked. Even though there's still a manhunt underway for another member of the team, a 12th.
Great point.
Since when is terrorism ignored in America? I'll tell you when. Since terrorism is being perpetrated more domestically by our own, and they're with one of these two crazy sides. So the sides are quiet about terrorism unless it works in their favor. So-called Democratic leaders afraid they're going to have to own these crazy lefties who committed this act of terrorism. And many in the media, let's be honest, they're in no rush to cover this because they don't want to piss off the radical left. See the game. Here, we discuss what's real, and we try to shed the perception.
I think these are fantastic points that Chris Cuomo was making, unfortunately. Got to give it to him, because I am not a member of this hyper-hacky media that says, oh, well, we ignore other people that are not on our team when they're right. Chris Cuomo's right. I mean, people are refusing to cover ICE agents being attacked every day. Another agent was just shot at yesterday during the immigration raids on the California pot farms. And you have Democratic lawmakers, leaders saying this is a disgrace, this is horrible, they're separating families from their children. There were 8 unaccompanied, undocumented children there. Who separated them from their families? That's, we don't have information yet what they were doing there, but if they were being put to work, that's child slavery. And I mean, the coverage of it is shockingly sparing. I don't think I've seen anything about it on CNN, on MSNBC. New York Times covered the raids. They did, again, we see how they cover things. Here's the headline, here's what we want you to think, and 17 paragraphs down, here's what really happened. If you do read the New York Times, which I encourage folks to do, keep your media diet wide-ranging and large, and you need to know what the other side is saying. Make sure you read the whole article. Don't just take their headline, because very often, as Mr. Cuomo so eloquently pointed out, the headline is often antithetical to what the actual substance of the story is, because as we all know, they're liars. That's all we got for you today, folks. Please, if you enjoyed the video, like it, comment, subscribe, boost our engagement. We are growing. I know you guys are enjoying this. You are giving us feedback. We really appreciate it. Please share it with your friends. Send it in an email. Send it in a text. Write down a link on a piece of paper and send it by carrier pigeon. We'll see you next time.